The One Piece live action is the #1 most viewed Netflix series, but it has some pretty bad changes. For example, the Fishman in the series looks absolutely horrifying. I mean, Arlong looks great, but what is that? I thought the Fishmen were supposed to be the bad guys. Why did the writers have my boy Luffy living under the dock? Is that where Garp left them before he met Dadan? Speaking of Garp, the very last change we're going to talk about is so awful, it'll make you smash your phone because of how bad it is. But let's talk about how the One Piece world in the live action actually has electricity. In the anime, all they have is lanterns and no electricity. Like, how is it even possible? Electric lights all over the ship? And Makino even has a neon sign at the party's bar? Also, I don't remember the anime ever having snail pods to communicate. But to be fair to Mihawk, they're pretty cool.
Did I catch you in the middle of something?
Just killing some time.
Speaking of Mihawk, though, can we talk about how we just destroyed the Dawn Creek pirates in like 5 seconds while talking to Garp? This guy's an absolute menace. But it makes me wonder why they didn't give Dawn Creek like his own fight with Luffy. To be fair, in the anime, it was quite long. But let's move on as to the way they changed Zoro's story in the live action. In the anime, Kuina originally dies by down these stairs, and Zoro was given the infamous Wado Ichimonji by his sensei Kuroshiro, who is also Kuina's father. However, in the live adaptation, it was actually Zoro that asked for the Wado Ichimonji in honor of Kuina, which, although not terrible, it did feel like a pointless change. But I can't talk about Zoro's story change without talking about what they robbed from my boy Usopp, man. In the anime, Usopp finally stood up to Claudador and the Black Cat pirates and faced his fears in order to protect Kaya. And this was a very crucial character moment for him. But in the live action, he seems to kind of just be there. Like, yeah, he had his moments caring for Kaya, but he never got his own moment to shine, you know? Except for this spicy scene. Way to go, Usopp. Speaking of Black Cat pirates, where the frick are they? In the anime, they were patiently waiting outside of the island waiting to invade, but in the adaptation, they're nowhere to be found. They would have made the live action 100% better because out of the whole series, the only other pirate crew the Straw Hats battle are the Arlong pirates. Now, we can't talk about the Black Cat pirates without mentioning one of the most important characters in the anime, Django. Not only did we not get the Black Cat pirates, but we lost the chance of having one of the funniest characters in the anime show up. What I'm sad about is we never got to see Django's trick he pulled on the Usopp pirates, which is also something we don't get to see in the adaptation, which is such a huge disappointment because they would have done Usopp's character in the live action justice by making him the focal point and giving his character more importance to the crew. In the anime, Syrup Village is an actual village with open land and a couple of houses here and there, but in the live action, we see that it's actually a huge looking town with docks filled with ships and shipwrights, which isn't the worst change, but when you look at how the live action did Kokoyashi Village, yikes! Nami's hometown went from comfortable housing to unlivable circumstances. Now, this would be fine and all because of how much Arlong has taxed them, but their clothes just don't match the environment like at all. Speaking of towns, Orange Town was accurate from the anime itself, you know, from Buggy blowing the whole place up, but I do gotta say that leaving out the backstory of the mayor and Mushu really left me feeling a type of way. It really made the anime feel special and different by giving Mushu his own story and another motive to defeat Buggy. But if you're a real fan of the anime, you'll know that Luffy is always known he could blow up real big and use his stomach to fire back at enemies. But in the live action, however, he seems to just randomly figure out this ability right as he's fighting Garp, which, although not too crazy of a change, it just doesn't really make any sense as to why they did that. Speaking of fighting, is no one gonna talk about how Arlong just stormed into the Baratier like some sort of mob boss? Like, this dude was not this persistent in the anime. He meant business when he was fighting Luffy on the Baratier. Also, I bet like 99% of you that watched the live action didn't notice that when Luffy and Arlong were fighting on the Baratier, Luffy was actually getting hurt by his punches. In the anime and manga, it states that Luffy cannot take damage from things such as punches without the use of haki, which Arlong definitely does not have. So although this may make the live action seem more real, it definitely has a lot of changes from the manga. Some benefiting the lore, and some not. But here's a crazy change that's guaranteed to leave you crying. So after Luffy and his friends set sail to find Arlong and get Nami back, they of course have this huge fight scene where Usopp's fighting one of the fishmen and Sanji Hachi's fighting other fishmen. And so is Zoro? You see, in the anime during this time, Zoro is actually fighting none other than Hachi. I found this change to be so unfortunate because having Hachi there just made it a huge challenge for Zoro, especially after the life-threatening battle he just had with Mihawk before that. I wonder if the live action ever makes it to Sabaody. Like, how will they introduce him? Would they tie Nami's relationship with him? But I can't just talk about Nami's relationships without mentioning the way Kokayashi's villagers treated her when she arrived there. It was completely different from the anime and manga. It was a real shock when I first watched it. The villagers basically hated Nami for joining the Arlong pirates and even her own sister too. But in the anime, all of the villagers knew why Nami had to join Arlong's crew and realized what she was doing for them. In addition to Kokayashi Village, it seems like Bella Marie's Tangerine Grove made it into the live action, and if we're being fair, it's huge. But the change I thought was a bit weird was that Nami hid the treasure she was saving up to buy Kokayashi Village back from Arlong in possibly the worst and disturbing way possible. She hid it right next to her mother's grave. Why? Like, I understand that they needed to get Nojiko to understand why Nami was doing what she was doing for so long, but was that really the only way? Speaking of Bellamere, her and Ben Beckham have had fans saying that they both look a bit on the older side compared to their ages in the manga, which I think Bellamere looked the way she needed to look, at least for the live action series. On the other hand, I felt like Ben Beckham being Shanks' right-hand man, he could have been a bit more intimidating. But then again, if they're trying to portray real live pirates, then I think they got Shanks' crew pretty spot on. Now, before we get into the worst change in the One Piece live action series, we have to talk about how they didn't include Logtown in the episodes. Like, why couldn't they just finish the whole East Blue arc in one season? As you probably already know, One Piece live action has been confirmed by Netflix to have a season 2, meaning we will be hopefully getting some Logtown scenes in the next season, because I think it's crucial for the show to have Luffy visit where Roger was executed, but not only that, actually have Monkey D. Dragon show up. Speaking of the Monkey D. family, Vice Admiral Garp had probably the worst changes in the live action. First off, why was Garp there when Roger got executed? Okay, not gonna lie, it was actually pretty cool, but the main problem about Garp was that he was chasing Luffy for the entirety of the show. Like, bro, let him be! Garp's motive to finding Luffy was super lame, because why would the Vice Admiral want to go after such a small fry like Luffy and his crew? And then just to reveal it all at the end, just to beat Luffy up and say, good luck, kiddo, see ya? I don't know, man, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. They definitely took this storyline, including Kobe coming back and meeting Luffy as a Marine from the Enos Lobby arc where Garp confronts Luffy at Water 7. Now, the creators explained because they wanted to create constant pressure on Luffy and the crew to keep the viewer engaged all the way throughout, which, you know what, I can understand. And if I just did the same to you, hit that subscribe button. Let me know if you agree with what I had to say, if you disagree, down in the comment section below, and I'll see you on the next one.